Edge highlighting, scary. It can look this good, and we're kind of held to a standard where like we're just assaulted with things that look this good all the time from Games Workshop and from really high level painters. Is it worth doing though? Can we get something close fairly quick that doesn't need the amount of skill and patience? Can we enhance that until it looks nearly as good as edge highlighting? Can we like cater for its weaknesses? It's dry brushing. Of course I'm talking about dry brushing. It's been a while, we're bringing it back. It's been like a video. Anyway, what we're gonna do after showing you how to get away without using edge highlighting, how to enhance that, is we're gonna do some edge highlighting. And we've broken this down incredibly carefully for you. We've got some ways to understand it that maybe you've never thought of before. We've got some diagrams about how your brush is gonna behave while you're trying to edge highlight with the side of it. We've given you the most help we can think of. We're pretty pleased with this one, and I think quite a lot of people will have something to take away from it. Even if you don't plan on edge highlighting, watch this section because it might teach you what you could get away with not doing. A lot of the stuff that we do, the glazing and making the sections darker at the bottom, makes our dry brushing look more and more like edge highlighting because the contrast is higher. So there's loads of different steps through this that will help you both improve your edge highlighting if you want to try it, which you can just do on your characters or the head of a model and the shoulders or something like that, or never do it and work out why we did it and how you can get there with our shortcuts that we're doing in the first part. So it's kind of like a 3-part video. One more thing, stick around till the end. We're doing a great big giveaway. We're giving away 5 full brush sets, 5 full texture palettes, whatever size you like. You'll probably choose the biggest one because it's free, why not? Yeah, we're about to hit 100,000 subs. That's because you guys, you have our heartfelt thanks for that. Thank you so much. Let's go. All right, straight into it. You got a voiceover because I have building work going on in the house. So, we're placing our base coat down now. This is my favorite way to place down base coats, and it's pretty efficient actually. I tend to use the dry brush for a lot of my base coats, especially if I'm dry brushing afterwards, because you get that little extra layer of protection on the edges of your minis. It goes super fast. You get the same amount in the recesses that you do on the raised areas. We have a video about this. It's probably appearing now. You can paint something that big in 5 minutes doing it too. Great. 2 thin coats, nothing new there. Still helpful, whatever you're doing. Okay, so using the Fist-on red here, that's how much water you need in your dampening palette, just like a mottled amount on your finger. That will do so much for keeping things smooth, and it's going to introduce a little bit of paint, of moisture to our painting process. This is how we're achieving the super smooth base coat, and how we get away with something that looks a little bit airbrushy, actually. So I'm stippling from the direction that I'm imagining my light. If you have issues with imagining the direction of your light, while your model's black, hold it under a lamp, just take a picture. Use that as your reference. Super easy. You can see that I'm concentrating on stippling from above. I'm not overloading my brush. I'm taking it very, very carefully. And I'm building up these slightly thinned layers because of the water that we've got from the dampening pad. So you've already got quite a subtle blend going on there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's part of the joy of the technique. We can see, especially on the little circle, it's a really good way to, it's one of the reasons they're nice in the middle of a pad. You can put a fade on them quite nicely. It looks kind of fancy. You can see I'm still using quite a big brush here. This is a medium. It's a medium. It doesn't particularly matter the size of the brush that you're using until you need to only be able to hit a small area. It's not like a smaller brush will give you better quality dry brushing. In fact, quite the opposite. What I'd be doing is if you end up hitting areas you don't want to, that's probably when you drop down brush size. And normally I hold on a little bit longer than I should, but it does make me paint faster. So, you know, there's that point where you realize that maybe you should be dropping down a brush. For us, that might be around now, speaking honestly. So stippling down on glazes, this is diluted and it makes quite a big difference. They're kind of patchy, but again, it doesn't matter. Don't obsess about whether it's perfectly smooth or not. You can fix that later, and we will fix that later. Just what we did from the top, the red, doing from the bottom, the black. At any point, if you're too worried and you want to go slower, you don't like the idea of going in with like a majority black mix, just add more of your base coat to whatever color you're using for your shading. Same with your highlights, works the same both ways. I can see here, I've got my tired but beloved old baby M1. It's an ancient brush. This doesn't go to a pointed tip anymore. It goes to like a flat top like that, kind of, if you zoomed in on it. This is great for stippling. I'll use this or the Baby D kind of interchangeably depending what I'm going for. Don't throw away your old brushes, they have use. Jumping into our highlighting now, you can see Evil Sun's the moment you put it next to Mephiston, you realise how much black Mephiston red has in it. That's one of the reasons it dilutes so nicely with black, in conjunction with the fact that Abaddon Black is weak as hell. It's a very weak black. That doesn't make it bad, makes it bad for coverage, but it makes it really helpful for kind of softer dilutions when normally a black would overpower things. It readily dilutes as well. It dilutes really nicely. And of course, as we're stippling, we prefer GW paints for the first stages because they're not matte, so they don't build up texture in the same way that other paints do. They're satin. So it's really helpful for kind of keeping things looking smooth. On the traditional dry brushing now, you can see you only need a tiny amount, and the moment you pop it down, it softens any transitions that you have. Those dark to light transitions. We got that airbrushy blend, that airbrushy base, and this is the type of base that Edge Highlight looks wonderful on because you get a smooth transition, not perfect, but smooth from top to bottom or from light to dark or whatever. And then you put this over it and it just jumps onto the edges, but it also softens. Let's say you didn't do a particularly good blend like this. It just softens that transition between your black and your red, for example, rather than having like a hard line. I didn't really need to do this at this stage, by the way, but it helped me kind of separate things in my head. So you could leave this to the end if you wanted. The moment you do it though, this is exactly the type of practice that makes you realise that maybe you don't need edge highlighting. So have a think about that. If it's important to separate one section from another, you can do that with a highlighted edge, or you can do it with a shaded line between the two. They both will help you achieve the same thing. And of course you can use both at once. Both at once is fine. Comment in the chat if you'd stop here for army level painting. Bring our brighter colours in, especially with the top of the model. Again, we don't need a smaller brush yet, but we're going to start getting to the stage soon with the front bits in particular where I might start struggling because my brush is too big, and that's just because I want to put smaller diameter circles. One reason to not change is I want to be able to use the same brush for dry brushing that I do for the poking, for the stippling. So you're going to be sacrificing one slightly to make it more convenient, not having to change colors, not having to make mixes again. That's one reason to kind of hold on to a large brush for a little bit longer if you possibly can. You can always jump back and switch brushes, but I'm lazy and it's efficient. Being lazy is efficient. Little thumb test first. Gradually bringing things up. Now we have lost the redness slightly here. That's coming up in the upcoming section of the tutorial. After the next face to camera section, I'm going to be bringing the vibrancy of this back. So we've lost a little bit. Dry brushing does desaturate your colors just by nature, whereas layering puts them down thick. Done well, it doesn't put them down physically thick, but it does put down a thicker layer of paint, and it tends to look like a more saturated version of the color. So we're going to be fixing that coming up shortly. We've started leaning towards colors that have like more white or orangey white in them. So we're just taking away from the redness of what's going on. Look at that, we can highlight edges so nicely with the dry brush. People don't think this is possible. It's absolutely possible. Just don't have much paint on the brush. Make sure that paint isn't dry, you won't get scratches then. It's all about setting up the brush, and you can get pretty precise highlights. In the last section of the tutorials, you'll see me doing the same thing with edge highlighting. You can dry brush on your edge highlights absolutely fine. So the reason we've put everything together in the same tutorial is for you to see the potential of dry brushing edges, you need to see the potential of painting edges. And actually, knowing about both of those techniques, you might be able to start kind of combining them or replacing one with the other. Same with airbrushing. We're going to do some more airbrushing on the channel very soon. And the reason we're going to do that is it's going to help me teach you about stippling and dry brushing. So all the techniques go together. It's not like you do one or the other. The more you add to your toolbox you've got in your head of potential ways to achieve effects, the more you're able to kind of adapt things or make them fit for purpose. Right, bringing in that glaze now. So this is going to really bring the vibrancy back. that we were kind of lacking. Look at that. Ian paused there. Or like 2 seconds ago. Hopefully on screen now is a really good demonstration of one glaze, what that can do for a mini. Such a stark contrast, just real uptick in vibrancy. See me ending my strokes where I want the most paint. Even though it's a very thin amount and I've been careful with the control of how much is on the brush, I've taken it off on my thumbnail. You still want to leave your strokes, the heaviest bit's going to be at the end. You want to leave that where you want the most of that paint. So for me, that is the brightest bit. That's doing such work, isn't it? Fixing's easy. Look at that again. Do we need to edge highlight or can we just panel line? Think about it. We separated those zones really clearly from like 2 feet away. That red bit stops, there's a black line, and that red bit begins. You don't have to have an orange line on the edge of the red bit to achieve that. You can, but you don't have to. You can achieve the same thing 2 ways. Just like painting a rivet really bright orange, you could also put a black ring around it like we have. Either is fine. Both is also fine. Love Baby D. Look at that. So efficient. Because you're not having to try and be precise, because you set up the brush like this. This is the efficient way to do edge highlighting. It is not the same as the other one. It's not a like-for-like replacement, but it is efficient because you don't have to worry about control in the same way. You do all your control on the palette, set up the brush nicely, and then rock it over, dotting those rivets. They've done work. Dotting those rivets has made my painting look better. I miss a bit on this one. It's triggering me. Look at it. Again, the amount of paint on your brush is really important. If you want to make it harder for you to make mistakes, don't have a wet brush. Have some water on there, but you know what I mean. Not too much paint, paint just on the tip, paint ready to leave easily, but not with a great big well of water kind of ready to like ink blot your model for you behind. And again, putting these punchy details on, a lot of people ask me how do I improve my blends or my stipple blends, whatever it is. Often you don't improve them. All right, so that looks pretty good, I think, at least at this stage. We've used stippling kind of efficiently. The bigger the model is, the easier this gets. We've done it on a backpack, and a backpack is kind of super varied. It's classic. It's definitely from Warhammer. It's very recognizable. It's got a lot of very different and somewhat difficult shapes on it. So a backpack is about as hard as it gets. It's small, it's fiddly. Everything points in different directions. There's flat bits, there's round bits. If you just got a great big square tank, you can use these same concepts on it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to enhance where we've gone. You know, let's say we're a third of the way through the process here. I'm going to add a little middle slither, which is glazing and some enhancing, and that's going to push our highlights further, and it's going to push our shadows further. And by pushing our highlights and our shadows, we're increasing the contrast in general, and that just looks wonderful on a small miniature. It helps you work out where things start and finish. This also lays an incredible foundation for edge highlighting, which will be coming up in the next section. The dry brushing is super cheaty. You're going to see a few stages here where I start getting less efficient. That's because you just got to watch the model. You might get a mix wrong, you might do something too soft, you might do it too harsh. It doesn't always go according to plan. That's not a reason to stop. That is not a reason to worry. Things will be fine. Let's go. Okay, so this obviously is absolutely fine. This is really high quality. We look brilliant on the tabletop. What if we want to take it to the next level, if we're willing to invest a little bit of extra time? It could be for character or just because we thought we'll try and push it. But let's see what we can do and try and take the concepts that we've used already and apply them at a slightly higher level. The first thing is I want to push the highlights just a tiny bit more. And I'm going to have to be quite careful with this, but we do have the glazing in our back pocket at any time. So don't worry too much if you're concerned about ruining all of your fancy paint work that you've done so far. So I'm going to take a little bit of white scar. Don't see me, oh dear. My white scar doesn't get used much, as you can probably tell. And a little bit of evil scones. Now, obviously, we're going to end up with pink here. That is pretty unavoidable. Don't worry about it. Of course, we do have the glaze, which will be with the evil suns again, that we can use if we want. Now, let's talk about brush choice. Have a couple of options here. We've got Baby D, and then we have, and it cannot be a new one. You have to have an old broken in one. You can use a slightly old, chubbier brush that's seen better days. Basically, you need something that doesn't have a point, but is still high quality and fairly resilient. So I've got a very, very old 1M. That's absolutely perfect. Now, because the 1M is so small, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my mix up after cleaning this brush. Someone left their brushes out last night. We do. Oh no, that's soap. Hey, someone cleaned their brushes last night. That changed fast. Oh, silky smooth. Aren't they good? Anyway. God, it seems like a worrying colour to put on a model that we're already happy with, doesn't it? Anyway, let's go. Obviously, we will test. Start somewhere that we definitely want bright. So if you can't tell from the absolute radio silence, I find this worrying. So don't worry, it's not just you who worries about taking models you're already quite happy with and then doing additional steps on them. Okay, last point, top of the round bit. We can neaten up edges on the trim, of course. Make sure to at least fade everything out, so I don't want these like great big blocks without something slightly softer to transition from them. Right, I think it's probably about where I need to stop fiddling and pop a glaze down. If I do more steps, I will probably get out the chubby 1M, I think. Anywhere that you've touched, you need to glaze. We'll probably need to glaze a couple of times as well, I guess. Make sure we let it dry. Alright, so basically you can repeat this glazy step as much as you want, quite fast really, and especially after the first one, you kind of chill out and get a little bit more used to it. Even if you make some mistake with the amount on the brush, like I just did, it's going to be a semi-transparent mistake as it is, so not the end of the world. Okay, I need to sort out some of these outlying dots, but we're looking okay. So what's next? Well, we can't go much brighter at my skill level very easily unless we start doing individual stippling. Could look really good. I tried out some recently here. Looks pretty solid, but definitely not my strong point yet. Work in progress. So what we're going to do is we're going to push the shadows here, so the bottoms of all of our sections, the corners, right up against where the edges have been highlighted by the dry brushing. We're going to exaggerate. So just the same mix that we used with stippling, we're going to use it with a little glaze. So take a nice helpfully weak Abaddon black and the red that helpfully already contains black, Mephiston. People don't realise how dirty Mephiston red is. Alright, might be too weak, but better than too strong. Let's give it a quick test. Be pretty careful here. I'm ready at any moment to go to my water cup, drench my brush, and to fix things, but I think we are okay. So ending our strokes towards the bottom. This might not be strong enough, or there might not be enough on the brush, but I'm more happy with that than I am with instantly ruining stuff in one go. And sometimes even if you can't see changes happening, you're still laying a foundation to make your next layer have a little bit of an easier job, just like with the stippling. So I think we can get away with more black. What I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to use up the rest of the small mix that I've got on my palette, just repeating it in the same areas. Title mark, so spoke too soon. It's not as subtle as we thought. It's a bit for being lazy. Don't think it's something we need to worry about though, because as soon as we put a darker back down here, that will pull attention. Yeah, so I just needed to repeat it. Didn't need to go and get something darker, and I'm glad that I didn't. Slightly rewarded for partial caution, if not full caution. Okay, so the circle's looking good. I think actually in retrospect, our wash was, our glaze rather, was just absolutely fine.
Now I might actually repeat the dry brush again, because it's going to make our edge highlighting easier. Right, this needs to be soft. Powdery soft. So coming mostly from the bottom, because I don't need to take care of the tops. Oh, I could have gone darker. Hey, at least we learned that with a dry brush, rather than having set ourselves up fully for edge highlighting. Okay. Ooh, that seems scary dark, doesn't it? If it's thinned enough and we don't start it anywhere but within the last ones that we did, we should be okay. So what I mean by that is, if our last one went here to here, this one needs to start within this, not past it, or on the lip. So be careful. Maybe too much on the brush. All right, that's good. So I'm just going to carefully do that within the sections that we've already done all over with absolute caution, because it would be a real shame to ruin things now. I'm going to repeat the dry brush. Wanted to show it to you because it does make such a difference. We might obliterate a load of our black work that we just did, but also any areas that aren't so smooth, this should, as long as we do it carefully, this should give us the option to kind of smooth them out a little bit. Not that one. Powdery soft again. I'm going to go up from the bottom, but I'm also going to go side to side because I want to hit these lips or edges that are at the bottom of the top part. It runs the risk of us slightly obliterating some of our highlights, but I think we're good. Okay. All right, onto the scary bit. Time for the edge highlighting. So we're going to jump in very shortly. This looks pretty good. This looks great. I think this is a really high standard for army painting, or for characters in armies if you wanted to do it. But of course, you can try and go the extra mile with the edge highlighting. One thing to bear in mind, I've already touched on it. I'm going to hit most of the edges on this. You could just hit upwards facing edges. You could just do this on someone's head. You could just do this on someone's shoulders. You could just do this on someone's weapon. You don't have to do it from the bottom of the mini to the top of your mini. And basically, if someone looks at a mini, they're probably going to look at its eyes, its weapon, its shield, and its base. So that's the places where I often spend the most time. We've touched on this in our 10 rules video. It's really worth concentrating on the good bits of a mini, or the bits that other people are going to look at because they're the same bits that you're going to look at. So let's jump into how to edge highlight. Again, this isn't going to go perfectly. This is how edge highlighting goes. We're not all god level painters. We're not Infernal Brush. You can go and see how someone who painted for Eavy Metal for 10 years paints. It's like some ridiculous painting robot. He's nuts. He's brilliant. It's inspirational. I'm going to make more mistakes than him, which is probably fairly similar to you guys. Maybe not, maybe better than me at this. But the mistakes don't matter. Don't worry about it. Nothing that goes down isn't fixable. So we've left them in here and you can see me screwing up. Just how it goes. If you're setting a higher standard, you've got to get there, and it takes more perseverance and more patience. I did enjoy it though. Let's go. Now, I'm not looking to do multiple, like 3 or greater layers of highlights here. It'll probably just max out at 2. Because of that, you won't see me trying to put down a fat one. I'll show an example of Eavy Metal style fat highlighting here from an Infernal Brush. It will be predictably gorgeous. You can all be inspired and feel inadequate at the same time. So we're going to be doing edge highlighting using the edge of our brush. This is the most forgiving type of edge highlighting. So that's my nail, that's the piece. We'd be going like this. This type is better, like point on for a lot of things, but also is harder and way more technical. So we'll be doing the easier type. Right, how to edge highlight. So we're gonna get our brush. It's pretty wet here. I'm gonna take a small amount of our color. It's gonna remain pretty much on the end of our brush. And then we just need to check the flow and consistency of the paint first. So we want enough coming off that we don't have to go more than once. And we want it to be leaving pretty easily. I think that's about right. We do not want excess though. Choose somewhere nice and forgiving to kind of get our eye in. Brace firmly. My wrists are pressed against the edge of the table. And then pretty close towards the end of the brush, but still using the side, whoops, with the bristles. We're going to pop down our edge highlights. Now, something for you to bear in mind. Water is coming from here, where we left it in the brush, to the tip, and it's taking the paint with it. Now, if you edge highlight quite close to the ferrule, or close to the beginning of the paint, the water flow is going to start going out there without reaching the tip of your brush. The moment you go more this way with an edge highlight, so I'll exaggerate hugely, if we were edge highlighting like this, the water flow coming out here means that there's no more water flow coming through the tip of the brush. And that means that the tip of the brush is going to dry out. As soon as you stop the flow throughout the end of your brush, the point after where the water has been exiting is going to dry out. As a result, I'm going to try and start my edge highlighting towards the end of the brush, and then if I have flow shoes, I'll just step backwards in bits. I'll do this a couple of times, then I'll go and refill the brush. If you are doing super high level stuff, you'll notice that those people go to the palette a lot, like a lot, and there's only ever really paint in the very end of the brush. They are incredible at what they do, they are geniuses, and the edge highlighting really shows. That is pretty timely though, so this is the way that I've worked out to try and have the best of both worlds, at least a little bit. All right, enough talking. So starting to dry out a little bit there now. Show the entire process again. Water on the brush, taking off the excess, taking some of our paint which is diluted on the palette, testing somewhere close to the model so it doesn't have time to dry out before we get there. Steady, firm grip, bracing with my fingers. There we go. Now, we try to include everything on this channel, my mistakes, my sufferings, so I'm not going to skirt around the difficulties of edge highlighting here. I'm going to show you the bits that are a struggle for me, explain why they're a struggle, and hopefully we can work out some ways to make them slightly easier or more approachable. There are a couple of techniques that will really help, and also there's some things that you can learn in terms of what needs doing and what doesn't need doing. So one thing to note is that if somewhere is closer to a brighter section, this stage of edge highlighting at least maybe isn't worth it. So just don't bother. Really easy, really simple. So putting down our evil suns next to the area that was, very dark, blacky red, it's going to show up instantly. Towards the tops of sections here, the top of the round bit, I've not even bothered. There's just no point, because the next step I will edge highlight with, I might do it, but it's actually going to possibly be darker than these sections. So maybe don't do that. You can see it's worked out really well here. Now, I've been using the edge of the brush rather than the tip of the brush. That is easier as we outline some areas. That's just not going to be possible. So I don't think I can hit this line that runs kind of down here. I don't think I can manage that without using the tip. And this line here, which is in a horrible situation, I really can't. I could just about get an angle here. My brush went in like this, with the very, very tip of it, and I got a bit of a wobbly, crappy one, spilling forth onto the silver. Didn't matter, we can fix that with washes. So yeah, I've done everywhere that's easy. I've noticed two things. One is that I'm going to quickly glaze some black in here, because it'll make our edge highlighting stand out and it'll look better, and it's super easy. I might do that now actually. And then yeah, the other thing that I noticed is that this one here, it's really easy for me to get it wrong, because I have to be very close to the tip. I'm just worse close to the tip of the brush, so I've messed up a lot there, and we'll just pop a black wash in there. So black wash is for exaggerating good stuff and hiding bad stuff. So the first one, we do not want excess on this. So I'm going to run it down here and hopefully we can hide all my slips. That went well. All right. And now here, these sections, they should be quite forgiving. I'm ready to quickly go and get some water and fix it. If they're not, I think they should probably be darker at the top, so we're going to go for that. My strokes are normally more controlled if I'm going down towards me, so that's what I'll do. And then starting within the sections that we just did, push the very tip. How to redo my edge highlight, but it's not a bad thing at all. While I'm here, this rivet as well, let's push that. I think that's it, cool. Okay. Actually, it isn't it? We've got some really obvious bits that we need to fix. So here. Honestly, some of this feels like it's worth doing and some doesn't. So if you're wondering why I'm going to these lengths, I'm trying to demonstrate it, but also I am wondering the same thing. So it's definitely a case for picking and choosing which ones you think are going to make enough of a difference that it's worth your time if you do want to do this. All right, our brush has been washed thoroughly. Now, stuff this hard, I would be doing about 1 centimetre from my nose normally. I'd absolutely recommend you do that as well. So I'll do a little bit. We'll get to see me suffer. Maybe it'll go okay. I've got my eye in, but yeah, we'll try a couple of the harder spots next to a rivet as well. It's just nasty, isn't it? Acceptable. Just about acceptable. Okay, cool. That went okay. The nastiest ones are remaining. I'll try and do one of them, and then the moment I make a mistake, I'll take it off camera because I don't want to ruin this piece. Right, the bottom bit is the most important bit where it's the darkest. Straight-ish. Hey, that'll do. They're all right. I don't know if they even go down that far, but we can just glaze them out if they don't. Cool. We do need to pick up on them elsewhere, though. I think the angle's just a little bit too. Let's see if we can get it beside the brush. Cool. All right. Final highlight. Now I know we used white under our glazing step for the final highlights on this, but I'm okay with going towards an orangey red for the edges. I think Wild Rider's kind of slightly peachy, weirdly. Take a little bit. You can always mix it with Evil Suns. Due to the high portion of white that it's got in it anyway though, it should stand out pretty easily. What I want to do with this is I'm just going to go for the tips and the upward facing edges. I could actually just cover all over these and try and keep it thinner. anywhere where the last one didn't show up as much as we'd like, this should show up a little bit better. It is brighter. All over, I guess. It shows up a bit nicer in these lighter areas, so that's good. Okay, so shout out to Gareth Nichols for this one. He was a hero of painting the nicest red that I'd seen when I was a kid, and is still an incredible painter. And he actually kindly sent me a guide for his red method. So I've taken that and I've applied some of the principles, which involves using the white and the glazes, which we've already seen here. And we're going to try and do it on the edges. So I've already tried on the right hand side here. It's been semi-successful. That's enough for me with edge highlighting, just like freehand. So let's have a little look. So we're going to take quite a lot of white, tiny bit of red, because Evil Sons. Then we're going to take a fairly thinned mix. And what we're going to do, I'll show you on the area that I've already done, how I did it. We're going to apply it, the bit that sticks out the most. Not going to worry if it's got some hard lines at the edges, don't worry about that. It's just a little block is fine. Try and keep it as a thin one. Then I'm going to water down the brush, dilute it a bit more, soften it. What we're going to do is, starting past it, we're going to drag into that. That's going to give us a little fade into either of those, either side of it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the same red glaze that we've been using all over, dilute it a lot, and we're going to do kind of the opposite. So starting at the middle, we'll drag outwards. Starting at the middle, we'll drag outwards. Then making sure we definitely don't have too much on the brush. We're going to basically highlight our highlight with a glaze. There we go. And same goes for dots. You can see I've dotted the corners here. We're going to do that. Bits that face outwards on circular bits, bits that face upwards on circular bits, and then corners and little tippity top corners of sections like this. Keep the glaze thin, otherwise you'll basically obscure stuff, but even if you do that, you can just repeat it. So yeah, hold your breath, let's go, nearly done. Kind of goes without saying that red's going to overpower white pretty easily, so yeah, don't worry if it takes a few goes to get the mix right. I hate bits like that. All right, yeah, we're gonna do that all over, and it's gonna be good apart from on the top. Okay, so on to the very, very last step. Things went okay there, but it's pretty clear that this is the bit that I am the least practiced at, the kind of precise finishing touches. I've already done it before, so makes sense. Right, rinse brush thoroughly, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a very, very white heavy mix, which just has a tiny dot of red in there. And with extreme care, we're going to dot some edges, corners. You can absolutely pop it in the middle of sections. If it goes wrong, just glaze them. I think that works. All right, that all over, and we are done. That's it. That's the technique, start to finish. I think this looks great where it is, really good. You could actually take it further if you wanted, but I think that looks super solid.
It's more forgiving than you think. Using the smaller brushes means that you're less likely to make a mistake, especially for the edge highlighting stages. Let us know if kind of that information about the brush was helpful to you. And what you can also do with a chance to win one of our brush sets and one of our texture palettes. We'll post this to anyone, anywhere in the world. Everyone's eligible. All you need to do is make a comment and suggest what you would like to see from us coming up in the future of the channel. I'm fine with general stuff. I'm fine with specific stuff. If you want to see like how to get more out of your time in the hobby, how to have fun more, how to do particular techniques, whatever it is, it can be general, it can be specific. Let us know below. How we're going to do it is, even if you don't have a suggestion, go down and just give a like to someone else's suggestion that you think is great. We will pick the top 5 in terms of votes. The top 5 comments, they will get a brush set if they're choosing and a texture palette if they're choosing. So go down below, pop down a suggestion of your own, and you can give your own suggestion a like if you like. So yeah, go down, give it a like to something, and let us know what we can do to help you get the most out of your painting in the future. We're really, really trying to nail down in-person education like you would do in a painting class online, and that's quite hard. So we need your help with it. Let us know what would be the most useful, what you struggle with the most, and what we can help you achieve that would make you the most pleased and accomplished in this hobby. All right then. Thank you so much for your subscriptions, your comments, your input, your suggestions. Half the videos on the channel are because you suggested that we should do them. So carry on doing that and we'll carry on making them. Thank you very, very much. We will catch you in the next video. I don't know quite what it'll be. I screwed up painting a Cities of Sigmar model. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Well done for sticking around. Give the edge highlighting a go. I promise it's not as bad as you think.